Overcoming Adversity. So, this is a great book I read daily. Epicurus, Stoic, Greek philosophy. And I'm going to just read a passage to you guys. Accept events as they occur. Don't demand or expect the events happen as you wish them to. Accept events as they actually happen. That way, peace is possible. So during our hard times, during the trials and tribulations, during the adversity stages in our life, when we have to overcome situations, for example, the lockdown that we went through, people weren't able to train the regular way they were, and then you saw how many victims would be created by this scenario of events because people didn't know how to overcome situations, and it's all beginning in the mind. It's all starting in the mind. And it's easy to be grateful and have a great and be kind and have all these positive feelings when life is going great. But when life takes a sharp turn and things are challenging, we like to become the victim. And I see it time and time again. I use myself as an example. When I broke my arm in 2016, my arm wrestling career was, just starting. I was making some good progress, and then my arm snapped in half, and I was devastated. I was sitting in a chair for 6 weeks, couldn't sleep, was in a lot of pain, discomfort really, and I couldn't train the way I wanted to. I couldn't do the things I wanted to do. So, I went through a little bit of depression and self-sabotaging. I played the victim, was feeling sorry for myself, and then I realized that I could do other things in my life. And that's where, I just trained my left side of my arm, my left side of my body. I just trained that. I went for walks. I focused on better nutritional habits. I didn't drink. I wasn't running to my vices like I used to be when I was in that desperate scenario. And going through, now that I look at it, it was really not a big deal. It wasn't really a big deal. And then 2 years later, I tore my bicep off the same arm I broke, tore it off the bone. And that was another, few months of recovery. But because I went through the arm break, I was able to know what was coming forward. And I was able to adapt and overcome. When I broke my arm, I started focusing more on how I could better other people. And at that time, me and my wife were taking a foster care program. My goal back then was to open up a group home for underprivileged children and, try to make a difference. And we met these 3 children that were in foster care. And during that time, we got to know them. We went through the process, and then we ended up adopting 3 kids. And during that time that I was so induced in self, I was able to give reflection to others. I was able to be an asset to others. And that's what we have to focus on, is how we can better other people, especially when times are going like not the way we want them to be. I remember when I was drinking and doing drugs all the time, and I was out of control, and I went to recovery for 3 years. And during those times, I learned that I was my biggest problem, all in here. I had to get out of myself, get out of my own way, so that I could live a life and be the man that I would admire one day. And all these times that I was failing through adversity because I was running to vices, I was crying about my life, I was playing the victim when I should have been playing the victor. But as a middle-aged man now, at 48, seeing life a lot different, my self-reflection, my mindset, I have inner peace now because of the things I've learned over the past few years. And one in particularly is to surrender to the flow of life. When things are going wrong and things are not the way they are, embrace them and just let them happen. And then you will realize that those are things that we can't control anyway. And during those times, we're able to help others. We're able to be an asset to others. We're able to get out of our own minds, be aware of our thoughts, and then that will reflect our behaviors. So when there's a challenge, when there's an injury, when things happen, you lose your job, whatever happens, it's the way we react and the way we get up for the challenges and what we need to do to better ourselves. Because at the end of the day, when we sit around and we cry and bitch and moan, it doesn't change our situations. It makes them worse. So when we can figure it out and see that when you have an injury or things aren't going the way you planned, that's the time to dig deep and have self-reflection and help others and do other things. Like during the lockdown when people couldn't go to the gym, a lot of people just got fat, didn't train, but you can do all kinds of other things. But people have came into this routine of everything has to be perfect for them to have a good workout, for them to eat correctly. Well, I'll tell you now that there is no perfect time. Life will eat you up and spit you out as quickly as you allow it to. But when you can have inner peace and you can control your thoughts and you can realize that you can adapt and overcome. When the gym's closed, you can do push-ups, you can do burpees, you can do squats, you can do dips, you can do pull-ups. There's so many different workouts that you can do instead of using excuses and go, oh, I can't go to the gym, I haven't worked out for 4 months. When I was locked up in jail, I remember that we would just train with whatever we could make up. Bags, books, bunks, whatever. We did it because we adapted and overcame. And that's the key to life, is adapting and overcoming. When things get hard, we need to get harder. We need to get out of our own way. And we need to focus on the better version of ourselves out there. So it's easy to be the person you want to be when life is going bad. But the challenge is when life is not going good, everything is going south, that's the time where you need to focus on being your best self. And for me, that always happens to use the tools, when I use the tools of getting up early, my morning meditation, my self-reflection, and then exercise in the morning so I can face the day with a clear mind and good intentions to better myself each day. I never met a man that left the gym that had a great workout, that was angry and still frustrated with the situations they were doing and they were going through. So if you can't train normally, you can go for a walk. You can do things. You can adapt and overcome. I had one arm for 6 months. I trained around it, and that's what you have to do to better yourself each day. Be the victor and not the victim.